Hello, I'm Jorge Gestoso. Welcome to a new program. On today's show, probably the youngest journalist in the world, Janna Jihad. A warm welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Janna, you are visiting the U.S. for about a month in a tour.
Yeah.
And you've been here in Washington. You are going to talk in Capitol Hill. And tell us how it's going so far, your experience in the U.S.
Yeah, I am here in the United States for a speaking tour around the states. We went to New York, New Jersey. Right now we're in Washington. We're going also around to a couple of more states, and it's pretty amazing. You know, we're trying to raise awareness about what's happening in Palestine, about the Palestinian issue, and it's pretty good.
So you're coming as an ambassador of South African children's rights group. The name is Samson. Tell us about the responsibility to feel like you are the ambassador of something.
So I'm the ambassador of Samson, which is an initiative which was made 3 years ago. It's basically a youth initiative which we try to create a platform for the Palestinian children and also for the children who are suffering, to send their stories and their experiences to the world, you know. So we interviewed about 300 child and chose 13 of them to make a calendar. We did a lot of programs. We did a lot of, you know, stuff. Like, for example, last year we made we made a lot of stuff about the child prisoner issue. We made a lot of campaigns. This year's campaign is about education for the children. We made a lot of stuff about the Miranda rights, and we have we are trying to just spread it out. We have Samson group in Lebanon, we have in Jordan, in Palestine, in South Africa, in Italy, and yeah, it's pretty amazing because we're trying to create a very nice platform for the Palestinian children for their message to be sent and heard by the world. And
precisely, you are giving voice to the Palestine children that have been grown under occupation. Tell us about how it is to live under occupation and your personal experience since you were born.
So living under occupation is pretty hard. I was born in 2006 and right now it's 2019. My whole life I was living under occupation. And it's pretty hard, you know, for us as children especially. Like, for example, waking up in the middle of the night. Imagine just your child waking up in the middle of the night on the sounds of gas canisters just bombing near their window, or on that soldier coming and breaking in their house and just trying to break everything, and waking them up with this huge weapon on their head, threatening them to kill, threatening to kill them, and then arresting them. Or sometimes we just wake up, go to our schools, we face checkpoints. I face 3 checkpoints on my way, so instead of me reaching my school in about 25 to 30 minutes, I have to go to another way, which takes me about 2.5 hours to 3 hours to reach my school, because those checkpoints are not checkpoints. They're barriers, they block the street, you cannot go through them. And then when I reach my school is right next to a clash point, so we usually cannot open the window because we don't want to smell gas canisters that are getting bumped around the school. And sometimes in a lot of schools, the schools get raided and children get arrested from their classes and from their schools. Then coming back to my house, I face checkpoints again, and I have to go to another way that, as I said, takes me about 2.5 hours to 3 hours. And then when I'm in my house, sometimes when I try to study, I cannot concentrate because of the sounds of because of the raids that are happening outside, because, you know, you're just thinking if somebody got arrested, injured, or even if somebody got killed or murdered. And even when we're trying to live our childhood and trying to play, me and my friends, if we went outside and try to play soccer on the street, sometimes the Israeli occupation soldiers would raid the village and start shooting at us gas canisters just because of us trying to just live our childhood. So living under occupation is one of the hardest experiences for us as children and for us as humans and Palestinians that are living under this Israeli military
You were talking
occupation.
about soccer, and it's one of your dreams to become a soccer player.
Yeah, I love playing soccer, so yeah, it's one of my hobbies, yeah.
So you were starting to be a journalist. You decided to be a journalist about when you were about 7. You are 13 now. Of all the stories that you have decided to cover, which one is the one who strikes you the most, that you remember most vividly, that you have been part of it?
So one of the hardest stories that I covered was the killing of my friend as last year, June 6, 2018. It was pretty hard. I woke up at 8 a.m. in the morning. You know, it was summer holidays, so our parents were at work, and then it's only us children in the houses. And I was having a sleepover in my house, me and my cousins, me and Randan Samir, and then we just woke up. I literally woke up on sounds of like screaming and stuff that are happening outside, and then in the same moment I looked outside of the window. I saw Az, which is our cousin. He was just right in front of my room's window, and there were nothing, nobody throwing rocks. It was a normal day. The only unusual thing was like it's not unusual, but the only thing was that the soldiers were in the village. And in the same time, Az was just walking right in front of my window. I saw him getting shot with 2 bullets. One came in his neck and one came in his chest. And it was pretty hard for us. We went outside and then we were running, and I was on live streaming, and then we were running, me and my cousins, and trying to go and call the ambulance or see what happened to him. And then those like tons of soldiers came and surrounded him and started to shoot at us live munitions and gas canisters and threatening us. You know, the live munitions were just like flying everywhere. It was so random and so hard. And then we were just like, whenever we were trying to just call the ambulance, they would threaten us and intimidate us, tell us we're gonna shoot you if you did that or anything. And then they started to beat Az up, and he was basically dead. And they left him on the floor to bleed.
How old was he?
He was about 19 years old, and he was, after that, he was like, you know, they left him on the floor to bleed for about 30 minutes, and then they arrested his dead body. And it was hard for us as children because he was like, he would always play with us, he would always speak. He's that type of person that would just like always be the sarcastic person, and it was pretty hard for us, you know.
And why did he been shot?
For no reason. Because of him walking.
And when you were mentioning, for example, that they arrested children at school, or they arrested children, or they arrested people, why they are arresting the people?
So basically, most of the children I know that got arrested, they were arrested for literally no charges. Like, for example, my cousin Ahed Tamimi, he was arrested for 3 months with no charge and for no reason. And yeah.
In your case, at 7 you decided to become a journalist. It was a specific event, something that happened around you that you decided, I'm going to start to record this?
As I said, in 2011, my friend Mustafa was also killed in front of me, and then 2012 my uncle Rushdie was also killed in front of me, and after that I wanted to show the world how we felt as children, seeing our family members getting killed.
For the moment, you are going all over the world telling your stories. What sort of the reaction you're getting from different countries that you are? Are they getting interested on that experience that you are living?
Yeah, a lot of people are interested. A lot of, you know, we have people that are with, we have people that are against, and we have positive. So let's not look at the negative. And yeah, there are a lot of amazing people that are really interested in our lives under occupation.
So a regular day of your life. Tell us about you wake up until you go to bed.
So I told you how I wake up in the middle of the night to go to my school. With checkpoints in my school, we cannot open the windows, then come back with checkpoints. We cannot play, we cannot concentrate while studying, and yeah.
And violence is always around?
Violence and Israeli occupation soldiers are always around. They're surrounding the villages. You know, settlements are even like everywhere. They're like 68% of the West Bank are made out of illegal settlements. So those illegal settlements are basically next to the villages and are surrounded by Israeli soldiers. Like, for example, the settlement is like 50 meters far from my village, and there are soldiers like everywhere, always. And
like quote unquote protecting the settlements. The reason why you're there is that in their logic.
No, not only protecting the settlements, but also to shoot more children. And you know, 98% of the children that are within 1 kilometer of the settlements they get arrested, and
so they cannot get even closer to that.
As I said, the settlement is only 50 meters far from my village, but in the 1 kilometer within, like, you know, the 1 kilometer far from the settlements, the children within that 1 kilometer, 98% of them, they get arrested. And so we have a lot of children who get arrested. And, you know, in the Israeli law, it says if you're 12 years old and up, you can get arrested, interrogated, treated like an adult. And only if you're a Palestinian child, not an Israeli child. And we also get subjected to a military trial in military court, not a normal court as the Israeli children.
You are the cousin of Ahed Tamimi?
Yeah, I'm the cousin of Ahed Tamimi.
And she's one of the she became famous because of the resistance. Tell us a little bit the experience that she has lived.
So Ahed, she's my cousin and one of my best friends. And so Ahed, she was arrested in 2017 when she was only 16 years old. And when she got arrested, she just got arrested because of her slapping a soldier and not letting him, well, basically, the whole story was, so our cousin Muhammad, he got shot with a live munition with a rubber bullet in his head, and we were not expecting him to live. And then it was like right over her house. And then the soldiers came back to the entrance of her house and wanted to go into her house because her house is in a pretty high area. So they wanted to shoot at the children who were playing around her house. So in that time, when the soldiers were trying to come in, she didn't let them come into her property, and she didn't want them. She was defending her house, and then he started pushing her, and she started pushing him back, and then she slapped him. And then, yeah, so the people, they don't know, they only see that, they don't see what happened before, which was Muhammad Tamimi's story, which is basically, he was playing. So it was right after Trump declared Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And, you know, there were a lot of violence, a lot of stuff happening in the West Bank, especially in my village. And the soldiers were in the village for a couple of days, raiding the village and just shooting gas canisters randomly. So Muhammad, he was playing with his friends on the mountain, and he was playing with their friends, and then the shooting suddenly stopped. So he thought somebody maybe got arrested or injured or something. So he was right next to a wall, and then there was a ladder, and then he climbed that wall. He climbed the ladder to see where the soldiers were, and at the same time he climbed that ladder, the soldiers were right under the wall. So he got shot with a rubber bullet. He was
in the eye, or in the
yeah, right. That came right here and was stuck in his brain, and he was in a coma for 7 days. And after he got shot, he was like in a high place, and then he just went. He just fell down and broke his skull right from here. And then after that, his friend, fortunately, his friends just carried him super fast to the hospital. And then after that, even he got arrested before this injury. And also, after this injury, he got arrested 3 times. And the first time he got arrested after this injury was after a month of his big surgery, which was to remove this bullet. And in that time, the brain was only covered with skin because he lost that whole part of his skull, and he got arrested. And it was pretty hard for them because, you know, as children, they get subjected to a lot of stuff. For example, long-term handcuffed, blindfolded. They get subjected to solitary confinement, interrogation and stuff. And during his interrogation session, in the Israeli interrogation center, he was forced to sign a paper that said that he didn't get shot, but he fell off a bicycle. He fell off a bike, so that's why he lost 1/3 of his skull. And thank God we had the medical records that show the bullet that was in his brain.
And what happened to your cousin?
Ahed was arrested for 8 months.
Because of
slapping a soldier, which wanted to raid her house.
Tell me about your plans. You're thinking to study at Harvard?
Hopefully I will. I'm a journalist. I may become a journalist in the future. And also in university, I want to study two things. My major is going to be political science, and my minor is going to be gender studies.
Do you believe that you are what, a journalist, an activist, a militant? How you define yourself? How do you see yourself?
Well, I see myself as a child, and that's the most important thing because we're basically trying to live our childhood. And I basically see myself as a child before everything else. And I also see myself as an activist and as a journalist because you can use journalism as an activism. For me, I use my camera to cover whatever is happening and to document it. So, yeah.
You are seeing the beach from your place, but you cannot go to the beach?
So, the Mediterranean Sea in the 48 Palestine, unoccupied Palestine, and Jaffa and Haifa and that. So Jaffa is only 30 minutes far from my village, from Nabi Saleh. And in the morning, if you went to my roof, you basically can see that you can see the beach and you can see the sea. And I've only went once in my whole entire life.
Because of?
Because the occupation, we cannot go in. We cannot go to occupied Palestine, the 48 occupied Palestine.
So basically, you feel trapped. You feel in.
Of course, we're basically, also in Gaza, they're under siege. They've been under siege for many years right now, and they cannot go out of Gaza or come in. Like, nobody can go in Gaza. Like, it's very hard. And in the West Bank, it's a bit better, but we're still under this very violent and really bad occupation. We cannot, like, for example, as a child, Jerusalem is like only 1 hour far from my house, but I've only went to Jerusalem like 3 times in my whole entire life, and the last one was like 2 months ago, and the one before it was 5 years ago. And it's easier for you to go to Jerusalem or to go to the sea, which is 30 minutes far from my house, than me going to it.
And when you see it from far, you blame whom? Because of that situation? Who's responsible of the occupation or your life being in a way like in a cell? But basically, you're like a prisoner. And who's responsible for all that?
Well, who's responsible for creating the Israeli occupation?
Who?
So basically, when the Israeli occupation, they came in 1948, there are a lot of stuff that happened. 1917 was the Balfour Declaration, when they gave the land of Palestine, which they didn't have, to the Israelis. And basically, there are a lot of countries that we can blame and a lot of governments, but basically, I always blame the Israeli occupation, because they're occupying Palestine. And the main question is, why did they occupy Palestine, and why? We could have they're welcome to come and just live with us in peace, but they're not welcome to come and occupy us. And only in 1948 there was about 700,000 refugees who were kicked out of Palestine for them to live in their land and in their houses. And right now, at the moment, we have about 11 million refugees outside of Palestine, which are more than the Palestinian population in Palestine itself. So, yeah.
So, do you think that the situation one day is going to change?
Hopefully it will, because of course something would change in the future. Of course, this whole resistance, those people that were killed, those people that were arrested, those children who were their rights getting violated, it's not going to go for nothing. So yeah. And
what would you say that is the feeling of if that is the case of an average Palestinian regarding the U.S.?
I didn't understand the question.
The question is, what people think, what people feel, the regular people in Palestine think about the U.S., the United States?
So, for me, the population is way more important than the government, and there are a lot of people in the United States that are super supportive of the Palestinian issue, and we're super happy about that and super proud of that. Of course, the government is trying to play the role of the mediator in this issue, but they're basically Israeli's lawyer, and they're, it's bad.
And tell me, Janna, your future plans.
So as I said, I'm gonna study, hopefully in the future Palestine will be free, and I'm gonna study political science and also gender studies, because even if Palestine was free, so I can send the message of other children who are suffering around the world and be able to raise awareness about their issue as we raise awareness about the Palestinian.
Would you like to become a politician?
Well, I'm studying political science. It's something that has to do with politics, but I may be a journalist. And I'm a journalist right now. So of course, in addition to that, I don't know. I don't really know what I'm gonna work as, but I know what I'm gonna study.
So between soccer player and politician.
So we have. I play soccer as a hobby right now. I'm on a soccer team, and you can do a lot of stuff in the same time. So we're capable.
Janna Jihad, thanks very much for joining us.
No problem. Thank you.